Hey there, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon. Today, our guest is Thea Karki, and she has a very interesting life. She lives in Los Angeles, correct? Are you in Los
Correct.
Angeles,
Well,
Thea?
technically Santa Monica, but it's all LA.
Yeah, that's LA. That's the whole area.
All LA.
So what is it that you do that's gonna fascinate us? Mhm.
What do I do? Well, I have worked for, gosh, over 15 years in mostly arts-based programming, but working with children and communities in several countries, every continent, I believe, except Antarctica I've been to at this point, and Australia. So,
Wow.
but yeah, I've had the fortunate ability to be able to work with these different communities and work with children using focused on arts, focused on their culture, and so what I do now is just a kind of a continuation of that. I do a lot of that in Los Angeles, working directly with young people here, and then I also work volunteer advise and work for an organization that does soccer, sports programs and early child education programs in refugee and conflict affected communities around the world. So they work Sudanese refugees in Chad and on the border in Mexico, just a lot of different places. But their name of that organization is IACT, and then the other organization I'm doing work for here in Los Angeles is for C-Lab. But yeah, I've had the like ability to be able to do that. Like, I really focused on that ever since I left, television production and working in. That's originally why I came to Los Angeles, working on shows like the Grammys and the BET Awards,
Wow.
and then shifted my focus to the philanthropic, and haven't looked back since.
Wow. So through art, I think, a lot of people debate it, but it's a proven scientific fact that art and creativity expands your mind and ability to comprehend greater ideas. And I have a lot of musician friends, and they say music, it depends on the kind of music, but music, I guess, expands your brain cells or something. I don't know exactly what it does, but what do you say?
I'll testify to that. I will absolutely testify to that.
Well, and art is such a part of our lives. Music,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And then of course art, the beauty of life. So, are you finding that developing the artistic side or the creative side with children is helping them learn better or grow or
Yeah, yeah, and not just with children, but also their parents, with communities. It's a way to kind of easily introduce something where there's not. It's kind of like it doesn't really. It's not really debatable in terms of there's not a lot of conflict around the arts or around
right?
music, or for the most part. And also, it has a way of self-expression. They're able to express
Yeah.
themselves. A lot of trauma, social emotional learning happens around the arts. Um, a program we had here it's in San Gabriel Valley in the city called Azusa, but it's a lot of working class families. These kids don't, these parents don't have a whole lot of time to spend, engaging with their kids in a real dynamic way. And we work with these kids over, I think, 15 weeks in this creative residency program and multidisciplinary arts. And then the last day we had a culmination, and we had parents in a circle with their kids playing theater games and just doing
Wow.
all kinds of creative activities that they would have never done otherwise. And it just opened up this kind of dialogue with
Yeah.
the kids and the parents, and just with the larger community. But also in the different communities I've worked internationally, it's kind of almost inherently a part of the culture in some way. And so it's just supporting what they already do.
But
Mhm.
And
let me ask this, only because it gives our audience a little bit of a backstory. What about where you came from, where you grew up in Oklahoma and around the Tulsa
Mhm.
area? Did how obviously music was a major influence in that, especially for you growing up when you grew up.
Yeah, I mean, so I was born in 1979, and I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And yeah, the music was just always kind of around, not necessarily directly in my family, but just in the city. You know, you had just musicians around, they had Russell, there was just people that were, um, I know there's a lot of great musicians from Tulsa that I'm going to miss and not mention, but you know who we are. Um, but you know, in this kind of music called red dirt music that is pop, you know, there's a lot of influence from that. And also, I took art classes in school, and I studied art in college before I
Oh,
left
wow.
Oklahoma. So it was always kind of ingrained in me.
So yeah,
But
these things stayed with you, and now you're
yeah,
used. Yeah.
but it's also not something that was prioritized, frankly, at that time. And so you see the influence of it, but you also see what happens when there's a, you know, not a, there's a lack of it, you know,
Mhm.
in communities. And so, so yeah, arts is kind of a entry point, really. It's an entry point into having deeper conversations with communities, of building trust, you know, connecting with them in a way that you normally wouldn't connect with them. People across different cultures, different backgrounds are able to come together through the power of whatever art form it is, whether it's dance or music or what have you, that they maybe wouldn't normally be able to do.
It's
Um,
because it's a non-threatening way of
yeah,
communicating.
yeah, it's an entry point basically,
Yeah, yeah.
and then supporting communities with resources to do what they already do. You know, oftentimes they already have music and dance, and it's just a part of their lives, and so you just support that and grow it however you can.
Well, I'm curious because art covers such a wide variety of different activities. So, is it like coloring, making things, projects, or is it performance art, or what
It's
kind
kind
of
of all of
projects?
it, really. There's
Okay.
the visual art, which is my primary medium. My primary background is in visual art, but it's not only visual art. It's mixed media, which is part of visual art, but it's also dance. It's also you know, music and not just instrumentation, you know, vocals, it's spoken word, it's poetry, it's,
Wow.
you know, all of those things. And introducing young people to this who didn't have access before, didn't even know that they could do it. And
And does there seem to be, no matter what continent you go to,
yeah,
everybody has that. Like you said, you know, the some kind of poetry, some kind of dance, some kind of music. They all obviously we know they have dance and music, but uh, performance or poetry, like you were talking about, do they all have that when you get there? They have that in their culture.
and not everybody has like the poetry aspect, but
Okay.
um
Storytelling of some sort.
storytelling though, like storytelling from their elders, you know, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
because some of the countries I know you've gone to, um, TV is not a big thing. You know,
Yeah.
you know, there some of these places are in outlying areas, and the communities do what they have to do in order to entertain themselves and keep their stories alive.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's all not so much about if TV is available or not. It's really about keeping their stories alive, keeping the learning from their elders, you know, something that we don't value as much in this country, the
Right,
US, which I think we can learn a lot from, and a lot from indigenous
Right.
communities about. And that's another thing about growing up in Oklahoma, you know, it's there's a lot of different indigenous communities that that is part of how they share their stories. And so yeah, it's also you can also reach young people in a way the way you wouldn't be able to otherwise in terms of whatever's going on in their own world and in their own mind. There's a lot of a healing centered kind of trauma informed aspect to the arts when you're working with young people, and it's, you know, it's something where they can find some way to be in community and express themselves in a way that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. And so yeah,
Right. And
it
it's
can
a
be
universal
powerful.
language. I mean,
Yeah.
self-expression is universal, whether, music or dance, just, moving or drawing or writing or, developing your creative mind and
Give us,
expressing.
give me something personal that you went you did something for people that may never have experienced something like that, or you taught them something, or you brought it up a level, and then how do they thank you? How do they show you how much they appreciate it? And and did anything stick with you that just sticks out in your mind and as something purely emotional and personal that you'll never forget?
This is not exactly directly related to music.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
But it is, or to the arts specifically, but, and it's also, we work a lot in collaboration with communities. So it's not so much a transactional thing that way, or we're bringing something to them. We're just basically working with them to provide them more support or resources, what they need, or more, outreach in some cases. But one of my fondest memories, it's actually quite personal, but I had been in the previous organization I'd worked with, I'd been working a lot in Nepal for many years. And
Oh,
so one of the communities, one of the villages where we had worked, my late husband had done a lot of volunteer work. That's how I met him. So he was deeply embedded in that community. Everyone, knew him. And so when he passed away and we had brought his ashes back to Nepal, one of the things we did when we went back to the village was we brought in playground equipment for the children. They'd never had that before. They
wow.
never had a playground. They never had a place where they could just, they had a lot of, different things that they were learning and other aspects, but they never had just a place where they could just play like young kids. And it was unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. Like the amount of just the rush and the joy and it was just incredible. It was the
Wow.
most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And it was simply by, you know, being able to get this equipment to this village in the first place was not a small thing to do. And then, thankfully, I have to give some love out to, some people who help with that, including this gentleman by the name of William Ora and Ishore. But they helped bring this playground out to this village called Tintale in Nepal, and the joy, and it was something that my husband Sujan would have loved because he loved just having fun with the kids.
Did
And
someone have to show them how to use the equipment? Like what kind of, was it swings and
yeah,
merry-go-round?
it was everything. It was
What was it?
swings, it was slides, it was a little Ferris wheel, not
Carousel
Ferris
kind
wheel,
of
but
thing.
what's it called, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm showing my
Well,
age here, you
we
know what I
we
mean?
used to call them death machines because we
Like a
played on
carousel, right?
concrete.
Yeah,
No,
sort
it
of.
was
Yeah. So
uh,
it was, but it
uh
was so much, it
I
was
forget the
just
name.
the joy on their faces. So yeah, we instructed them a little bit, and some of it they just kind of figured out on their own,
Yeah.
you know.
Fun.
But I could say that was something that we, physically brought in that just was just unbelievable, the response.
Merry-go-round.
A merry-go-round. Yes, thank you.
Holy mackerel. I had to go deep for that one.
So this has been a few years ago, but yeah, so I think that's an example of something that just I it was unbelievable.
Oh, so when you go to these places, do you go and stay for an extended period of time? Do you move there or do you just go back and forth and stay small amounts of
Yeah,
time?
you just go and when it's an appropriate time, you just go and visit them and spend time and work with them and then be in communication um, in between that time. But really these are programs that are led by them,
How
you know,
long do you stay there
for that.
normally?
It just depends. Like we have, so this organization I'm working with, called IACT, they can go for up to a month. But
Yeah.
I went with them to the Central African Republic a couple of years ago, and we were there maybe a couple weeks. Yeah.
Do you bring any like rock and roll music or any American music? Like,
Not really. We don't
no.
really, some of them have things they like already. Some of it's hip hop, depending on what age they are. Some of
Okay.
it's some
So
other
they
stuff.
know American music.
They know American music, but they have so much of their own music. So they
Yeah.
don't really need our music. But they,
Okay.
I mean, some people just, stuff that's popular, they'll know.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but, in addition to music and the arts, we found that just other aspects of like play and creativity and sports, stuff like that, it's really impactful, you know.
Yeah. I think organized sports are so good for kids. It teaches them so much. Um, everywhere. Art, sports, groups, group activities that you can share with other people really teaches them, about sharing and stuff like that. Because little kids have to learn, how to share, especially the ones that don't have siblings. If they don't have siblings, they don't know how to share, um, or don't understand. You have to wait in line. You don't just go to the front of the line.
Yeah,
Um,
even if you do have siblings, sometimes you don't know how to share. So
yeah, that's true, true.
that
That's
happens
true.
too. I have a
Yeah.
sibling. I don't know always know how to share.
All
Yeah.
right. So in your life or career, pick or combine them. How what were your big challenges? What was something big? What did you do to overcome it?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's been so many. I don't know if I can narrow it
Well, we
down.
only have about an hour, so
Just like narrow down my challenges. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll give a recent example. So as you know, I think, John, I recently, with a fabulous group of people, have decided to launch a project in honor of my late husband and his mother who passed a couple of years ago, and he who passed away 5 years ago. But really to go back into these communities and support the kids in a different way. And so we started this organization called Bahanana, and we
spell
we
that. Spell that for the people, please.
Bahanana. It's BH. I'm going to misspell it, but BHANANA. I
N
think. Yeah,
N-A,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Bahanana. Um, so it sounds like banana, but it's Bahanana. It has a specific. It has two different meanings in the Pali, and it means tell me something, and then we are here, and it's like you would say it to a child. And so we thought, oh, that is meaningful, and kind of a phrase for a young child as well, so it has different meanings in the Pali language. But so we decided that we were going we were going to pilot this, and it was going to focus on sports. It was going to focus on soccer initially and social emotional learning, and so we would have a combination of different social emotional learning activities and games, and then also do soccer. And we had like no money. We had no real like sense of what we were going to do at first, and we just kind of came together. And fortunately, there's someone who's a football soccer coach in Nepal who was working with us, because I don't know that much about soccer. I mean, I love the sport, but it's like I get confused by offsides and the different rules, and so we needed somebody else. But so basically, we just figured it out. Like I somehow we trimmed down the budget to almost nothing. I was somehow able to pull the money together, a little bit of money to do this pilot. So we did 2 weeks, and we did it 6 days a week for a couple of hours each day after school with this group of kids in this community called Chapagong. And we were able to even get them like shirts and shorts, and like we really
Little uniforms.
really tried to support these kids and make them feel like they were a part of something. And the results of that were incredible. The feedback we got, the survey results, like everything was just incredible. How much they wanted to continue the program, how much that they learned from it. All these different experiences, it was beyond our expectations, because it was kind of like, we'll start this pilot, we'll see how it goes, and if it doesn't go well, then I guess that's that. But it went so well, so now we're working on just fully developing it, with some wonderful advisors and potential board members, and really making it a full organization. We did a workshop program in January. We're going to do another one, a program hopefully in the spring. So yeah, it was a way to, but we really at first, really didn't know what we were going to do, and how we were going to pull it off. And everybody came together. No one got paid. Everybody was a volunteer. We had this wonderful a friend of mine, Grace, who had spent time in Nepal, but she is American. She lives here in the U.S., but she is does mindfulness and all of that and meditation. So she helped us develop some of those programs for the kids. So they come in, they sit in the circle, and they're able to like just be for a minute, just breathe, meditate, be in the circle. And then at the end, we also do a circle and they're able to give feedback on what their experience was like that day. And yeah, it's been really cool. So that
Oh,
was probably a recent challenge and how I overcame it. But there's so many, John, I don't know. Like,
oh.
maybe
Well,
that's
the
where
rewards got to be in watching the kids, the joy on their faces, when they learn something I never had kids, but I love kids. So I'm always trying to lure neighborhood kids to my house to do arts and crafts. Like when I lived in LA, there were a bunch of little kids that lived in my area, and their parents would let them come over to my house, and we would make, like, at Mother's Day. We made Mother's Day cards. For Father's Day, we made Father's Day's cards. And I had this big picture window where we would sit, in the room where the parents could peek in and watch. And it was just such a joy that, these parents trusted me with their kids. And they loved to come over to my house because they were all little girls and everything's pink. And I had a little dog, and they just really, it was a fun time for them. And so I got such a kick out of, I would also put them on the computer, and I would give them the ear headphones, and we would record things, and we would
oh,
record their voices,
cool.
and they'd make characters. There was this program, I forget what is Voki or something. And so they would do that, and it's just so rewarding to watch the joy on their face when they discover something new or experience something, artistic, and they know I did that. They're very proud of it. So that must be the joy, what drives you, I would imagine.
Yeah, it really is. And I couldn't be in Nepal at that time. So or the last program we did. So we were really
Oh,
relying heavily on our team that we had
uh,
there. And it was like it wasn't going to work if it didn't work with them and us not being there because I couldn't be in Nepal all the time. At least not yet. So so yeah, the joy on their faces, the photos, the videos of them, and then yeah, having that direct experience. And like some of the kids I've been able to work with in LA, it's just um, yeah, it's amazing. You see it, and when you see when it reaches them too. Like I was working years ago, I was working volunteering, teaching art to a group of they were like teenage preteen girls, and they were in this place called the Aviva House. And at that time in Los Angeles, and at that time, I used to kind of call it the pink prison because it was, you had to go all these metal detectors and everything, but it was all pink inside. But a lot of these girls, and it's a wonderful organization, and they do a lot of work for the community. But a lot of these girls had been taken out of their home for various reasons, or it was court ordered, or they had faced some sort of abuse, whatever it was. But they were in this residency place, and I worked with these girls for weeks, and sometimes, and it went well, but then it was also like there was always a chaperone in the room, and then at one point a fight broke out. It was like all that kind of thing going on. But on the last day, and this was when I was still working in television production, so I was working on the BET Awards, I think, or the Hip Hop Awards, I can't remember, and I could not. I was so busy, I could not figure out what to do with them on that last day. So I just came in there and I asked the woman who was the coordinator, and I built some trust up with her and asked her. I was like, I want to do this program, this project, but they really have to be able to be open, like curse words, like whatever they want to express. And so basically having them do their own hip hop, their own, write up their own hip hop lines, and it was incredible. There was like a fight that was happening right before, and one of the girls wasn't even in the room, and then by the end of it she came into the room, and then she was kind of like no one wanted to talk to her, and then by the end she was like the star of the place, just based on what she brought out with her the hip hop that she did, like her rap, what
How old
she
were they?
expressed. They range from like 12, 13 to maybe 15,
Uh,
16.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of, at first it's a little bit heartbreaking because you already see them a little bit jaded by the world before they ever even get an opportunity to truly live in it.
Yeah.
But to see them just, and I didn't really do anything. I just set, this is a, container trust, is a safe space, and then just let them go at it. And they did. They already know what to do. And some of the stuff was a little bit hard to hear, but it was like them expressing themselves and their lives and their experience. And that was like a moment where you saw that you reached them. It's just that point where it doesn't matter how many days or weeks or months or sometimes years you're working with different groups of people, especially young people. That moment when you realize that you've reached them, it just is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And that was at that point when I decided to take a pretty substantial pay cut and go into the nonprofit
Wow.
philanthropic world,
Wow.
and make that more of my focus because that's just like, okay, that's where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
But that was yeah, that was really surprising. I didn't know how it was going to go over, but it was yeah, it was incredible. And this is several years ago, so I sometimes wonder like where these girls are or how they're doing or what's going on in their life. But yeah, yeah. So
Well,
you
so you were in television production and you said you did all these award shows, correct? Is that all you did?
that
Like the Grammys?
well, we yeah, it was predominantly award like live music events. So we did a special with Melissa Etheridge when she was not too long after she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. We did, we've done, yeah, the BET Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards, and the Grammy Awards was the biggest thing that we did.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so I think my
You
mom
worked for
was,
a company and then
yeah, yeah,
that
this
company was
company was
hired to do these
yeah,
award
so
shows?
the company worked with different, like, so the Grammys is the Recording Academy. And so this production company that I worked for at the time, which isn't even around anymore, but it's called Cassette Productions. And they worked with the Recording Academy to produce the awards show. So that's kind of how that worked. The same thing with BET. So BET Awards is like the BET company, and then we would be hired to produce the awards show.
Wow. So you did like the whole thing. You planned it and
Well,
put
not
people,
just
sat people where they
not
sit
just
or
me. There's a lot of people involved in
oh,
those
okay.
things. It's quite an ordeal. It's an ordeal in a sort of good way, but yeah, there's many people involved in that.
All for a 4 hour show.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
or 4 hour show, sometimes a 2 hour show. Like the level of like it's not for sissies, you know. You go
Yeah.
for a whole week, on when you're rehearsals and then you're on site, well, you just pretty much don't sleep. Like you just
Oh, wow.
forget about sleeping for at least a week. It's just like that when you're in the production side of it. And so I haven't worked in production for many years, but I feel it probably hasn't changed that substantially in terms of like
Yeah.
just what it takes to do this, what it takes to do anything. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of people, and it almost works kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like an orchestra or something or dance. Like there's different people in different departments, but it all has to come together.
Right.
It's somehow everybody has to work together and has to find some ways to collaborate creatively, but also like productions and budgets and coordination and unions and all that stuff.
And that's on the production side. And then you have to deal with the talent, which
I
is a
didn't have to deal with the talent as
oh,
much,
okay,
but there
okay.
are people who worked, directly with the talent,
Right. And
including one of my
that's
one of my
always
very good friends does that, and
that's
it's
always a joy, you know.
yeah, yeah. One of my best friends, Diana Sanchez, she does that. She works mostly with talent in the production, and actually really glad that I didn't have to work so much with the
Yeah.
talent.
Well, I wonder even just seating them in the audience, like, wait, we can't sit him there because he's divorced from her and she's with
Oh
him,
yeah,
and
there's a whole
this is a bigger
seating
name, so they go up
situation,
further
and
up towards the front, and
yeah, and there's a whole department of people that handle like just the seating,
yeah,
and
I bet.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite a thing, but it's also an incredible thing to be a part of.
Oh yeah, fun, I
Honestly,
bet.
because especially with a award like the Grammys, you have these legendary artists
Yeah,
who we would never probably see in such an intimate type of
right.
location. And then you have these new artists, emerging people, but like I was able to get an autograph of Robert Plant
Oh,
from Led Zeppelin from my mom because she's a big
wow.
fan, and I was like, that's how I know who Led Zeppelin is and their music. And so I got her an autograph, and but so many different instances of different artists that you would never have an opportunity to just kind of be there and witness them rehearsing or being in the same space. And that's a lot of like energy, you know, like I had to run on to right before the show started for the Grammys, I had to run onto the seating area for something. And then there's what's his name? The one from Eurythmics. I'm gonna mispronounce it. One with Annie Lennox.
The guy,
Yeah,
something Stewart, isn't it?
Dave, Dave, what's his name?
Dave Stewart. That's
Dave
right.
Stewart. Yeah, him and Ringo Starr just kind of chatting and hanging out like right there in the aisle. You know, stuff like that. Like Paul McCartney in the backstage. I mean, just things like that that you just seen Coldplay. This is many years ago, but seeing them just work out their entire set for the Grammys in rehearsal and just having no one else in that space except for a few people. You know, stuff like that where
Yeah.
you know, and I only really worked in production for about 4 years, but yeah, it was an opportunity. It was exhausting and it was a lot of very hard work and stressful, but it was also an opportunity to kind of be in that space with these amazing artists and work with a
Yeah.
lot of good people as well. So, um, yeah, I feel fortunate, but I don't think I could manage it these days. I feel like that was when I was like 20 in my 20s. I was like, that's more of a gig for in your 20s to hang that way. But it was, yeah, it was an experience, and it led
Mhm.
me to, in its own way, it led me on the path that I'm on now. So
Yeah.
very fortunate.
Well,
Yeah, well,
okay.
talking about seeing all these people in their real habit, as not they're not performing. Like we all see them performing, but we don't see them talking to a friend or interacting with other people just in a normal way of their everyday life. So that the behind the scenes, that's got to be
Yeah,
um
yeah. I mean, there's a whole kind of quote unquote sausage making aspect to that whole thing that I'm sure nobody wants to
yeah.
really know about. They just want to enjoy the show. But at the same time, yeah, it's an incredible kind of thing in a way.
Well, it's surprising to know to see the ones that are easy going and easy to work with, and then the ones that the ego gets in the way and they want, their
Yeah,
way or whatever. They're not really
you'd be
considerate of other people.
surprised.
I mean,
You'd be
that always
surprised.
fascinated me when I was around movie sets. It was mostly for me, TV and movie sets,
Yeah.
and seeing the way the actors behaved in a normal way,
Hmm.
just how nice the nice ones and the ones that weren't nice weren't, you know,
Yes. I
charming.
mean, and I'm not talking, like I remember the younger ones too, and the ones that are, but some of the older guys were like some of the older artists were really lovely. Like Nick Fleetwood was probably one of the nicest humans I had ever,
Wow.
but also, you know, I, there's also people like Snoop and, other folks that are interesting to work with as well. And you're working in different areas, so it's very kind of, you get all of these different backgrounds, all these different artists from different genres and the Grammys, and then you have the BET Awards, which is much more focused on uh, more so a different genre of music, but they're also just these incredible artists from all these
Yeah.
different backgrounds. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. It seems like the more successful they are, the nicer they are a lot of times.
I don't
Well,
know
we
if that's
try.
necessarily
We
true.
try.
You know, at
You
least
know.
in my experience, that's what it seemed like to me. Um, you know,
Sometimes not. It's just
I
kind of
guess you're right about that. But in my experience, the more successful, it was always the ones that were on the verge of making it or not so well known
yeah,
that are
kind of
like,
trying to prove
don't you know who
themselves.
I
Well, let's
am? Look at me. You know,
let's
didn't
let's take that. So, obviously, all three of us have lived at various times in LA. So, uh, Thea, in your years in LA of working in the industry and just being around LA, who's the not the greatest talent that you've run across, but at least the one that surprised you most? That you were in their presence, or you met, or you just happened to be
left
in the
the
same
biggest
restaurant with.
impact?
Yeah.
Its impact. Oof, that's a tough one. Um, Gosh, I don't even know off the top of my head who would have been probably the biggest impact. Yeah, I don't know. I think someone that I mean, I'm gonna say someone that everybody knows and everybody appreciates, but and saying Beyonce, it's like it's Beyonce.
Okay, that's a good
But
one.
she's incredible. I mean, she's incredible. But I trying to think of others who have left the biggest impact. I don't know. Often the ones that have left the biggest impact on me are local artists. Honestly, local
Okay.
artists. Some of them may not even know their names. Like I think this
Yeah.
one group that were always playing on the Santa Monica on the promenade and sometimes at the pier. And it was my husband and I's like favorite group, and they played all of this. Like some of it was rock, some of it was kind of a little hip hoppy, some of it was a little soul. Like it was kind of a mix. Um, but they were mesmerizing. They were incredible, and they're not someone that's a household name. These are not people you're going to know their names.
There's a lot of talent that goes undiscovered.
Right.
Yeah, and one of them is named. I'm trying to escape. He's the guitarist. Lightfoot Music, I think, or something like that. But like for me, I think some of the local artists are some of the ones that have had the biggest impact on me. I mean, obviously, you see this incredible talent, and you're amazed by them. Someone else who is surprisingly is got I mean, a lovely and not surprisingly, but he's lovely, has amazing talent. Is I don't know if you know who Chris Jackson is, but he was in Hamilton. He's been on other Broadway productions. He's also done some television, I believe, but he is an artistic advisor for an organization I work with called 4C Lab, and he came in and did a Q&A with the kids at a high school in East LA that we do a lot of work with. And he came in and did a Q&A with them, and then someone asked him to sing, and he sang this beautiful song, and even these kids that are like the age of his own kids were just blown away by him.
Uh,
And he wasn't hip hop. He wasn't someone like that they might know who it is. This isn't Jay-Z or Bad Bunny or anybody like that. This is someone that they may know of, but they were just mesmerized and blown away. And these are high school kids. So he just met them where they were at and really spoke to them as humans. And even though he's been a part of this huge, huge production of Hamilton. Um, they loved him and they felt seen and heard, and he is an incredible talent. So I think
yeah.
something like that makes a bigger impact on me than just someone's talent alone, or just their ability to
Right.
sell a lot of records or
Right.
be
Right.
out in the world. Like it's someone who actually does take the time to you know reach people. And so, yeah, not necessarily household names,
Yeah.
but yeah,
The world's full of talent. The world is just full of talented, good, gifted people. And we don't always know all of them. Sometimes it's just in the community. I remember as a kid, There was a girl that I went to school with. Her name was Kelly also. She had a voice like a bird. She just could sing. So at the pajama parties with all the little girls together, there'd be like 10 girls. We'd tickle her to make her sing. We'd literally make her sing for us, because she was just so talented.
Yeah. And
So
I think, yeah, and it can come from anywhere. And I think it's not necessarily how famous you are, but it's like what you do with your talent. I
yeah.
think that really
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, some people don't have that drive or desire to be famous, but they have the talent where they could if they wanted to be, but they just don't have that desire and they do other things in life and might do the occasional. I'm so glad we had what those star talent shows that we do on TV now. America's Idol, American Idol.
America's Got
Yeah.
Talent, and yeah,
Yeah,
all
I'm so glad that we have those because it gives all these local people a
the voice.
chance,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also
realize their dreams.
I'm really impressed by people who are also like singer-songwriters. And there's this
Yeah.
artist he's actually from Oklahoma. And his name's Zach Bryan, I believe. And he had this song. He has many songs, but he has a song called Something in the Orange. He's had the other stuff, but you look on his video on YouTube, and it's just clips of different fans who have since sent in videos of their experience with a sunset or a sunrise, because that's part of what the song is about.
Oh,
But you look at the comments of people who have heard the song, have listened to the song, have seen the video, and it's just overwhelming. Just the impact. People who have had problems with addiction, people have had troubles with their family, themselves. Like this song impacted them in such a deep way that it was incredible to see just the impact that one song can have on a person or many people.
yeah, music's
Um,
such an important part of our lives. I mean, it's everywhere and anywhere. It's when you're in your car driving, it's at the grocery store, if you're home alone and you want to dance and have some happy music and turn up the music,
yeah,
and it's just such a part of our emotional lives. Or remind you of someone from the past or remind you of a good time, or music's so important in our culture.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and it can reach somebody. It's interesting what a song. What was it? I think John Batiste said, but it's he has this beautiful when he accepted, I believe, a Grammy Award, but he spoke about how it's like a song just finds the person, or the person finds the song. But there's this kind of connection where a song will hit somebody right when they need it. And that's the power, I think, when we talk about the power of music, we talk about the power of arts. It is something that you can't always explain. It's almost mystical in
yeah.
that way. It's a mystery in terms of how this particular song, this particular music, this particular doing this dance or piece of art or whatever it is, like how it reaches you. You just don't know. What's the
Even
mystery of it?
voices, like certain voices when they hit note, like two voices when they sing, they just get me emotional. They make me tear up. Sometimes Mariah Carey, and I think that's probably, she hits those notes. And Daryl Hall, he has just always moved me. His voice, some of those notes he hits, it's just it like goes through me. And so I think, that's a gift, definitely a gift to have. Um, that, a lot of people have that too. But again, they're not always famous, but they're gifted with that
Yeah.
voice
I
or
think the
talent.
thing that's about being famous is that you just reach more people.
Yeah.
Um, in
Yep.
a lot of ways. That's probably the
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's get back to this. So, if you can give one piece of advice to somebody wanting to make a positive impact in their community or country or the world, what would it be? Because you've done that.
Yeah.
You've traveled the world and you've made positive impacts in various places around the world. It may not seem like that to you, but based on what you're telling us, you have.
Yeah.
And you've done
Yeah.
something that so very few people on this planet have done. So what advice would you give if somebody wanted to do what you've done?
Oh, such a good question. I think one of the ways is to figure out like where you feel like you can best serve. Like what are your skills? What are your capacities? What do you care about? I guess is the first thing. Like figuring out what it is that you care about. Because there are so many. things happening in the world right now. So much need is there, but I think everybody can't do everything. So I think it's figuring out what it is that you care about and then
You can even
finding out.
volunteer in your own community
Yeah,
Mm,
I
if
mean,
you
it
really
could be
want
as
to
simple as that.
give
Like,
back.
and that's what I did. Even when I was working in production, I volunteered initially, and that's how I kind of got into this. But yeah, I think figure out what you care about and then working and then, community, like volunteering, find organizations that do that and volunteering and starting out that way, or figure out other communities and that are working on that particular issue and find ways to help. And, being online, social media, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can connect with people. And that's a starting point. And then, yeah, I think that's the first way to start.
Yeah, I
okay.
think that sounds good. And a lot of people, I'm sure, would like to do it and they don't take the time. But as you gave up a well-paying job to travel and, you've given up a lot to do it because the reward is in the heart, I guess, rather the wallet than the wallet.
Yeah, well, my mom thought I was insane when I first decided to do that. She was like, "What are you doing?" But I think, yeah, I think you just have to. I think it's about finding your purpose. As cliche as that sounds,
Hmm.
I think it's finding your purpose. What we only get a certain amount of time in this life. We just
Yeah.
do, and we don't know how long that time is. So I think it's like, what do you want to do with that time? And you got to just find out what is your purpose. Why do you feel like you're here? And how can you, contribute to your community locally or the wider community of the world, um, to put something good back, into it, and make it just slightly. It may not be completely better than as you'd like. But I think even the smallest bit helps.
Yeah.
All of it
That's
helps.
right.
So I
That's
think just being able to try to make the world a little bit better.
all right. So what's
Why you're
next for
here.
Thea Karki?
Yeah.
What's next
Oh,
on track here?
well, I'm still working for these two fabulous organizations, 4C Lab and IACT, and the next step really is getting Bahananal just like a fully fledged organization and being able to expand our programming. I think that, and also I'm exploring going back to school and getting my master's in child psychology,
Wow.
focused on trauma and conflict. And I'm going to be like the oldest student there. I'm going to be like the geriatric student in the classroom. But
You
oh
don't
well.
look it though. You don't look it at all. You look
Right.
like you could be a college
Well,
student.
John's known me a lot. He knew me when I was in my 20s, so he knows that he sees the difference.
No.
But yeah, I think
You look the same as you did then, so there
Yeah.
you go.
Doesn't look great.
Absolutely.
oh my God, I think it's because my gray hair has been like
Is
covered
that
up.
don't see it. Anyway.
But yeah, I think those are the next steps for me. And we'll start in Nepal. We'll see if we can bring this program maybe to some other places as well. But keep fighting the good fight.
Right.
That's right.
Awesome.
Well, when you do that and you come back from these trips, we'd love to hear about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Well,
We
I
would
may be
like
going
that.
to Nepal in the fall. I mean,
Yeah.
or early
Hmm.
winter.
What
Fingers
do you
crossed.
think? Do you think they have a Zoom connection in Nepal?
They have Wi-Fi. I think we could probably get. Would
Oh,
you
that
like
would be
to do a
neat.
Zoom
Yeah, that
from
would be neat to
Nepal?
see
That
what
would
you're
be
doing.
great. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had people from other countries. That would
Yeah.
be the coolest and the farthest.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely
That would be
far.
fun.
Yeah.
yeah, and if you could just happen to do it by a window with Mount Everest behind you, uh,
That probably not, unless I tried to climb it, which not no, no.
no, just out the window. That's all. But I'm sure
I
you
just
can
do it
see
from the
it from far
plane.
away.
I'd have to do it from an airplane to get that
Okay.
that.
Well, anyway, but thank you, and we'd love to have you back
Yeah.
on. It
Really
would be
interesting to hear what you do and everything. Thanks, dear.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, and this is my first podcast of any kind. I listen to a lot of podcasts. My first time to be on a podcast. So, yeah.
It's easy, right? It's very easy.
Sort of. I
Painless.
feel like, you at least I stumbled a little bit a few times. I was like, okay, who is this person and what is this? But
Okay.
That's what
yeah,
podcasts
maybe it's
are.
also age.
It's a conversation.
Early stages of menopause, maybe.
Uh,
All right. Well, thank you, Thea. Thank you very,
Oh,
very much.
fun.
For
And
sharing your story.
Thanks,
Yeah.
y'all.
I
Yes,
hope we can
full
get together
y'all.
the next time I get out to LA for sure.
Okay, definitely come. Anytime y'all are here.
Y'all? Okay.
Y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna start dropping the y'all. So it's just gonna be my
Yeah,
new.
it's only taken 20 years. Yeah, okay.
Aw.
That's like when I was out in LA, I couldn't get rid of the forget about it. It's
You haven't got rid of your accent for like the whole like all these
yeah,
years
but
I've known
but
you live in
my
LA.
accent, my
Always had a
accent
Jersey accent.
worked. Mine worked out there. It's
That's true. It's really hard to support a Nokia accent.
there you go. So anyway, thank you. Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you both. It's been a blast. Thank you so much. Kelly,
Been
it's
a
a pleasure to meet
slice.
you.
Nice to meet you
There you
too.
go.
Thanks.
It's been
Yeah.
a slice. Yes. Thank you for
Yeah.
correcting me. And
Okay,
bye.
bye. Thank you.
Bye.
All views expressed in this video belong to Kelly Nicholson, John D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain. Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kelly and Jon.